Hi everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to do part 3 of going over the AP Practice US History exam. I hope you guys have been enjoying the series so far, and let's get right into it. So let's take a look at the first question here. This is an excerpt from George Washington's farewell address in 1796. So he goes and says, "History and experience prove that foreign influence is one of the most baneful foes of Republican government. Excessive partiality for one foreign nation and excessive dislike of another cause those whom they agitate to see danger on the only side and serve to veil and even second the arts of influence on the other. The great rule of conduct for us in regard to foreign nations is in extending our commercial relations to have with them as little political connection as possible. So far as we have already formed engagements, let them be fulfilled with perfect good faith. Here let us stop. Europe has a set of primary interests which to us have none, or a very remote relation. Hence she must be engaged in frequent controversies, the cause of which are essentially foreign to our concerns." So let's take a look here. So what are Washington's concerns? So the first thing we need to figure out is, what is he even talking about? So he is talking about the United States not trying to get involved in certain situations in Europe. The United States needs to establish itself first. So let's take a look at the answer choices here. So it's not going to be A because he doesn't mention anything about Indians and he mentions Europe. So we need to look at where there's going to be answer choices that are relating to Europe. So let's take a look here. Dispute over the possibility of annexing Canada. He does not talk about Canada at all here. So he's primarily talking about Europe. He says Europe has a set of primary interests which to us have none or a very remote relation. So there's actually no mention of Canada in here, so that should not be an answer choice. So we have C or D. So there was conflict with Great Britain over the treatment of American loyalists. If we look at the context of when the speech was taken, it was in 1796. So therefore, it can't be D. So our best bet's going to be choice C. So during this time, if we remember, the French Revolution was honestly at its peak. So our best choice is going to be C, because the United States, a lot of people in the United States wanted to support France as they were overthrowing monarchies as well. But George Washington, if we remember, believed in the United States foreign policy of isolationism, strengthening the nation from within and not getting involved in foreign affairs. So therefore, our best answer choice here is going to be C. So now let's go to question 25. So the ideas expressed in Washington's address most strongly influenced which U.S. foreign policy decision in the 20th century? So it's not going to be the oil embargo against Japan. Remember, this is regarding isolationism. So formation of NATO between the U.S. and Western Europe, that's not isolationism, so it's not B. Establishment of the UN, that's the United States getting involved in foreign relations, that's going to be A. And it's not going to be D because that's a clear act against the Empire of Japan. So our best answer choice here is going to be C, when the United States refused to join the League of Nations. That's basically the anti-United States joining the United Nations, as we saw in choice A. So let's take a look here. Which of the following groups are going to most strongly oppose Washington's point of view in here? So Southern plantation owners, it doesn't really mention about slavery, so let's eliminate that. It's not going to be New England merchants. They are indifferent to that as long as they make their money. So it's between Democratic Republicans and Federalists. Democratic Republicans did want to get more involved in the foreign affairs stage across the world. So our best answer choice here is going to be choice A. So next we have question 27. So most historians would argue that the recommendations of Washington's address ceased to have a significant influence on United States foreign policy as a result of. So we could take a look. All right, let's take a look. Westward expansion. So it might not be westward expansion. You need to look at the context. This is about European affairs. So our choice would not be A. B, support for Cuban revolutionaries in the Spanish-American War. That could be a strong one, but it does not mention anything about Europe in particular, so it wouldn't be B. It would not be C. So Wilson is supporting for peace to be made. And for therefore, that would prohibit the United States from getting involved in the conflict, even though they did anyway. So our choice not going to be C. So our best bet is choice D. The United States sent troops over to Europe, just like how in the excerpt that they mentioned that the United States should not get involved in Europe. The United States did the exact opposite of that in the 1940s when they went and declared war on Germany and launched troops into Africa and then eventually into Europe. So therefore our best choice is going to be D. Next we have 28, so let's take a look at this. The colonizers brought along plants and animals new to the Americas, some by design and others by accident. Determined to farm in a European manner, the colonists introduced their domesticated livestock, honeybees, pigs, horses, mules, sheep, and cattle, and their domesticated plants, including wheat, barley, rye, oats, grasses, and grapevines. But the colonists also inadvertently carried pathogens, weeds, and rats. In sum, the remaking of the Americas was a team effort by a set of interdependent species led and partially managed, but never fully controlled, by European people. So the question they're asking here is the export of New World crops to the Old World transformed European society mostly by. So let's take a look at some of our answer choices here. So they are mentioning they're bringing food sources primarily. So let's take a look at ones that carry food, but also colonists that carry pathogens, weeds, and rats. So this is not going to be C. So that's because it's not. There's no encouragement of more exploration. They're talking about, hey, this is what we've brought from the New World over to the Old World. So it's not going to be C. It's not going to be B. There's no mention of pushing people off of lands. So it's really between A and D. Yes, there is going to be major power struggles amongst rivaling empires regarding new food supplies. That could definitely happen. But if we look in the context with it, the European society is going to have an improved diet because they have more food variety. And in addition to that, they're going to have better population growth because they have more food. And also, because of the pathogens, the native population would be wiped out. And as a result, more people could settle in the New World and the population of the Europeans would grow. So even though D is a very plausible answer, and I can understand why people would pick that, our best answer choice is going to be A for those reasons. So let's take a look at question 29. So the patterns described in the excerpt most directly foreshadowed which of the following developments? So remember what I mentioned about the population decline. So let's take a look here. Emergence of racially mixed populations. Well, they're talking about bringing pathogens. If we remember, when the pathogens were brought, it killed a lot of the natives. So it's not going to be D. It's not going to be C. Because we're just not necessarily in that time period yet where we transition over to more of a capitalistic society. The spread of maize cultivation, this was really just more of a native thing. That's the best way to describe it. So it's not going to be A. So our best bet's going to be B because of the mention of carrying pathogens, weeds, and rats. So let's look at 30. So the trends described by Taylor most directly illustrate which of the following historical developments. So we take a look here, the growth of mercantile empires that stretch across the Atlantic. Let's keep that there. Increasing Anglicization, it mentions nothing about religion. So let's eliminate B. Okay, and then the rise of the Atlantic slave trade. Yes, that might be it, but it's not the best answer. They don't mention anything about slaves here. So we have between C and A. So yes, this definitely helped empires grow in here. But they're specifically mentioning the exchange itself, right? They're mentioning about the exchange of goods and items that went from Europe. So all the livestock that came in that would go back to Europe, that would be choice C, the phenomenon known as the Columbian Exchange. You could argue that it caused the growth, but it is in the current moment, it is describing the phenomenon known as the Columbian Exchange. That's a tough question right there. So let's go to 31. Okay, so it's British settlement of 13 colonies. So the map is going to reflect, let's take a look here, industrialization is not going to be it because we're nowhere near the time period. We're probably around 100 years behind. So let's eliminate B. Pattern of American Indian resistance, there's no mention of that, it's just British settlement. And then decline of tobacco production, that doesn't happen in these colonies, so it's not going to be D. We're not in that time period yet. So our best bet is going to be A, the inland expansion of colonial population. So as you see, as the years go on, the colonial population began to continue to migrate more west into Pennsylvania, deeper into Virginia, etc. So our best bet's going to be A here. So let's take a look at 32. So the pattern of colonial settlement up to 1700 resulted most directly from which of the factors? Okay, so let's take a look. Recognition of native sovereignty. If they recognize native sovereignty, they would not keep going west. So therefore, it is not going to be choice B. The large size of British colonial populations, there's no really mention of the population here. If they said, hey, British population versus native population, you could argue that, but there's no mention. So let's eliminate that. So it's between the attempts to impose greater control and, in addition to that, the orientation of British colonies. So this time period is really covering the 1700s. So let's just eliminate 1600. So our best bet's going to be C. The reason for that is the British needed more land to produce more crop. That way that they could benefit the empire, make more money for the empire. So therefore, our best bet here is going to choose choice C, the orientation of British colonies towards producing commodities for export to Europe. Okay, so let's do 33. So the change in settlement patterns from 1700 to 1775 had which of the following effects? So the coastal population is going to stay strong no matter what in big cities like Boston, New York City, Charleston. These are cities where it's not going to make any changes. So there's not going to be a decrease in the coastal population. Okay, an increase in trade with French Canada. This is not the case here. So decrease in economic importance of slavery. Slavery was still very economically important in Georgia, South Carolina. So that's not going to be it. So our best choice is going to be B. So as the British keep moving in more and more inland, taking more land from natives, the natives are going to start to get more upset. So therefore, our best choice is going to be B. And our final question, number 34, the change in settlement patterns from 1700 to 1775. Best explain which of the following? Let's take a look. A significant proportion of colonists who remain loyal. It just doesn't depict that at all. Maybe if there was a demographic about it, so it's not going to be that. Growth of social tensions, and then development of economic differences, that could be it. So we really need to take a look here. Let's go back to the chart. Okay, so it's just talking about more people are starting to migrate inwards, right? So let's take a look. So it's not going to be C. Let's just get rid of that. The colonist difficulty doesn't explain that. It actually might be easier if the colonists are more spread out. So it's not going to be B. So we're really between A and D. So there wasn't really a development of an economic difference necessarily. Our best bet here is going to be D because a lot of the British who were living on the coast, they're in the big port cities such as Boston, New York, they were making all the money. And the backcountry settlers who were starting to settle more in and get set up, that resulted in social tension, and then some of those became loyalists, the people who were profiting from the crown, and the people who weren't, who are more inland, or more of the backcountry settlers. So therefore, our best bet is going to be choice D. I hope you guys liked this video. I'm going to come out with part 4 tomorrow. For more content, please like and subscribe to our channel, and hope you have a great day. Take care.